Hey, welcome to the Campaign Builder Finishing School. First things first, as you probably saw on the registration page, this is an automated webinar. So that means that this is recorded. I'm going to go through these in real time, and I'm going to show you some use cases for how they work and why I feel like they are valuable. Now, as you know, the goal here for this webinar is Campaign Builder Finishing School. These are tactics that you can layer into your existing campaigns to make them that much better. So my hope is, if you're watching this, you already have some sort of relationship to Infusionsoft. You already have a certain level of confidence with Infusionsoft's Campaign Builder, and you probably already have some live campaigns. But I also acknowledge that some people will register for this webinar just because they're excited about it, or because they want to hang out with me, or what have you, and you may not be super confident with your campaign. So before we jump into the tactics, I want to make sure everybody's on the same level as far as the functional components in a campaign. So at their core, at its very simplest, the Campaign Builder is about goals and sequences. Goals are the round icons, sequences are the rectangles. I think of goals as the trigger, or as the action, and then sequences are the reaction. So when somebody does this, fills out a web form, submits a landing page, or purchases, this is what happens as a result. We send them the free ebook, or we deliver their product, or we register them for our blog updates, right? So little micro campaigns, action, reaction, are a perfect example of small ways you can begin to introduce automation to your business. And if that's all you use the Campaign Builder for, that's totally fine. But this webinar is going to be about going back to your existing campaigns and how you can level them up. So that's all I want to say about the Campaign Builder basics. If you feel like you need to revisit that, or you feel like you skipped that day in school and you want to build that muscle, then what I recommend for you is the Campaign Builder Trilogy course. But stick around. Let's get into tactic number one. Okay, tactic number one. Now this one is a basic one, but it is incredibly helpful and functional if you can make it a routine. So what we're talking about here is using the notes section of the Infusionsoft Campaign Builder. So on the Campaign Builder canvas in the lower left-hand corner, you may notice that there is a notes option. This doesn't have any functional impact on your campaign. It really doesn't have much of an aesthetic impact either. It's just there to leave yourself notes, literally text notes that can serve you in the future. So if you're working on a campaign over a period of weeks or over a period of months, you can use this notes section to leave reminders for yourself for things that need to be done. You can leave to-do items for other members of your team, or you can use it to store important links like the URL of the landing page, so you don't have to open that landing page every time you want that URL. Another fun fact about these notes that a lot of people have not realized is that they can support HTML. So if you're not an HTML coder or a coder of any sort, you can use some resource like W3 Schools to get some basic HTML and make the text bold, or to make it a different color, or to add a border to this. Or if you want to get a little fancy, you can embed images here, screenshots or graphics, or links out to training resources that may be valuable. So if you support other Infusionsoft users, if you're a certified partner or a certified consultant or a virtual assistant and you work in other people's campaigns, if you want to leave a training video or a link to one embedded on their campaign canvas, these HTML notes can be incredibly helpful. So my suggestion for you is, if you build campaigns or if you have live campaigns, is to go back over them and to figure out the questions people might have as they're engaging with these campaigns, and then to answer them on the campaign canvas. Some of the most common questions would be, where is this web form hosted? Or where are these landing page links, right? The questions that somebody else who didn't build this campaign might naturally be wondering, or the questions that you, several years down the road or several months down the road, might be wondering as well. Because when you build these campaigns in real time, a lot of those things feel natural. They make sense to us, but a month or several months or several years later, the future version of yourself may not have that at the ready. So I want to highlight this simple feature as tactic number one for leveling up your campaign. Tactic number two here is the entry filter. When a contact achieves a goal in a campaign, they are added to the subsequent sequence and they experience whatever it is you have laid out for them. What the entry filter does is it allows you to pause and to decide if that experience should be relevant for them, or would be relevant for them based on what they've done. So to create the entry filter, you just add an empty sequence right up front in the campaign. So after the initial goal, before they go into that first sequence, what you're going to do is draw a line to a second empty sequence. The function of this sequence is to give us a decision diamond. And then you can use that decision diamond to determine, is this appropriate for the contact who is entering this campaign? The reason you might want this is twofold. The primary reason is to prevent someone from experiencing automation that they shouldn't experience. So, for example, if somebody is entering a sales sequence and there's a series of emails promoting a product, well, if they have already been in that campaign, it may not be appropriate to let them experience the same messaging, the same timing, the same cadence, the same call to action if they've already seen it, right? The nature of automation is that it allows us to reach a number of people in a way that we couldn't if we had to do it manually. But the drawback to automation is that sometimes it feels too automated. So by introducing a decision diamond at the beginning, that entry filter allows us to branch people off who have already experienced that section of the campaign. Or the second use case here is to create a tailored and more personalized experience for them. So that entry filter could just be a dead end to prevent people from going down that road, or it could be a unique path on its own, a secondary line of promotional emails, or an alternative messaging sequence to try and achieve the same result. Here's an example. So if you opt in for one of my courses and you request the free trial, there is an email that delivers the free trial content, but then there's also a series of emails promoting the actual course and reminding you why this course is valuable. But if you opt in for the same free trial a second time, I don't want you to experience the exact same emails. So what I do is I add that entry filter to say, if this person has already been through this free trial, create this second experience for them. And what I actually do is just say, hey, looks like you already have access to this. Here are your login credentials again. So my action item here is to comb over all of your existing campaigns, anywhere where you have traffic, and to ask yourself, is this a campaign that they could be added to more than once? And if it is, should they? And sometimes the answer is yes, it's fine if they go through this campaign more than once. But if the answer is no, if you're worried at all about them re-triggering that campaign and maybe they shouldn't experience the exact same thing, then that's where an entry filter comes into play. Okay, tactic number 3 here for Campaign Builder Finishing School. So what we're talking about is called an exit hatch. So if you picture a campaign, anything that engages with your contacts over a period of time, at a certain point during that window, whether it's a month or 3 months or a year, that contact may decide, you know what, this isn't relevant for me anymore. Maybe the topic is no longer of interest, or maybe their needs have changed and they're no longer a good fit for the product that campaign is promoting. Regardless, if they decide that they don't want that, and their only option to get out of that campaign is unsubscribing, what's actually going to happen is they will be unsubscribed across your entire application. So the goal of an exit hatch is to give people a ripcord, to give people an eject button that they can pull for a single campaign or for a single sequence. Now, here's a few examples. If you have a line of messaging driving contacts towards, let's say, buying a specific course. Well, if that course solves a pain point that they have already solved, they might decide, well, I want to hear from Greg, but I don't want to hear about this particular product. So the way that you address this is by adding a goal at the end of that campaign. Okay, so here is an example of the exit hatch. If you have an opt-in form here, you might deliver whatever it was that you're opting in, and then you may transition them into a promotional sequence where you're guiding them towards, in my case, registering for the Monkeypod retreat. Well, what you would do for the exit hatch is add a secondary goal that can also stop this campaign. So that's our exit hatch. The goal method is going to be a tag goal. And then you attach it to the entire campaign, or whatever is at the end of the campaign, so that no matter where they are in this campaign, when they achieve this goal, it pulls them all the way out. I would create a unique tag for each campaign that you want to implement this tactic in, so that way they're only pulling themselves out of one specific campaign or even one specific sequence. So once you've added that goal, you need to give the contacts the way to apply that tag and pull themselves out. So the way you're going to do that is to jump into one or multiple promotional emails, and just instead of the buy now call to action, right, whatever the email content is, you would add an option down at the bottom that says, don't want info on this subject. Click here to opt out of communication on just this topic or just this product, right? Something like that. And then that the link you're giving them is actually what's going to raise the tag. Now, I usually build a custom page for them to see when they opt out. So, hey, cool, loud and clear, I heard that. Maybe a link to something, your YouTube channel or your blog or what have you. And then when you add that URL, the last thing you need to do is apply that tag, the exit hatch tag, when they click it. And then what that does is it ensures that as they click that email, that tag is then raised, which would achieve this goal, pulling them out of the campaign. And the function of that tag is just to stop everything previous to it. So throughout the campaign, at key intervals or in the footer of the emails, you give contacts the ability to click a link, which will raise that tag, which will achieve that goal and extract them from the campaign. So what I'm talking about here is also known as a soft unsubscribe. Rather than letting your contacts or forcing your contacts to unsubscribe globally, you're giving them the ability to control their experience on a campaign level. That gives them much more granular control over the communication they're receiving. It means that your messages will be more relevant. It also means that you'll have fewer unsubscribes across the app because your contacts may want to continue hearing from you, just not about particular topics. So by building in unique unsubscribes or exit hatches for specific campaigns or specific sequences, you're going to create a better overall user experience. Now, the action item here is to comb over your existing campaigns. Anywhere where you have a sequence of emails or a number of communication pieces on the same topic, where you run the risk of people getting tired about hearing about that subject, you should give your contacts the ability to raise their hands and say, yeah, that's enough on this. Let's extract me from this particular sequence. And the good news about this is they're not saying that they don't want to hear from you. They're not saying that they want to be off your list forever. They're just saying, yeah, this one's not serving me right now. And if they can recognize that, then ultimately it's the best case for you as well as for them. Okay, tactic number 4 here. So in this tactic, we're talking specifically about adding preview text to any or all of your emails. So a few years ago, Infusionsoft introduced the ability to add preview text to your emails. This is right below the subject line. It's a little section as you're configuring the email. And the function of this text is to show people a message before they open the email. So if you're interacting with your inbox and you see the sender on the left-hand column and then the subject line, you also start to see a preview of the actual message of the email. That's the preview text section. And the goal here is to give people additional context or reason or motivation to actually open your emails. Now, if you have built campaigns years ago, this function wasn't available. So the reason I'm including this relatively basic tactic here is because a lot of people still haven't taken the time to comb back over their existing campaigns and add that preview text. So here's an example. For a campaign I have offering my 5 lessons of automation ebook, I did this as an experiment, right? So I tracked for years the downloads of that ebook, the engagement of those emails, and I found that I got about 35% open rates, which is not bad, and then I got about 5% click rates, which is not great, but that's sort of par for the course with digital marketing. So when the preview text feature was introduced, I took screenshots of all of my stats there, and then I went through this campaign and I added what I thought was compelling preview text for each of the emails, and then I measured for a full year. And what I found was my open rates jumped from 35 to 42%, and my clicks jumped from 5% to 9%. And the only change made to this email was within the actual preview text, which was giving people a reason to open that email. So the benefit here is that if you get more eyes on your emails, then your copy can start to do its job and your call to action can start to do its job, and it will create residual effect in terms of engagement as well as conversion. So the action item here is to go back to your most popular campaigns, the campaigns that have people in them right now, and to comb over any emails you have, especially the most important emails, and to make sure that they not only have preview text, but that it is valuable, it is compelling, it is encouraging people to open those emails. Tactic number 5. So this is the 5th and final tactic here for the Campaign Builder Finishing School webinar. And what I'm talking about here is multi-channel messaging. So let's zoom way out on your campaigns or on your customer journey. If you think about what we're creating, if you think about the nature of automation, is that you're basically designing the experience you want your customers to have, and over a course of time, you're creating the messaging that drives them from milestone to milestone, guiding their experience. Now, the reason I emphasize the multi-channel messaging approach is because I find that many small businesses and many Infusionsoft users only really think in terms of email marketing and the way that email can be used to encourage people down that path or from milestone to milestone. So the benefit of multi-channel messaging is that you get to layer in additional mediums to communicate, to reinforce the same message. So email is, of course, a valuable way to get a message across, but it is just that. It's one medium. It is not, the only option in terms of getting that message to people. So the examples I want to give here are to consider things like SMS or text messaging, or to consider using Facebook ads at key intervals throughout their customer journey. So if you think about the email being the primary vehicle for delivering that message, you can reinforce that same message by having it show up in other channels like text messaging or through Facebook ads. And the way that you do that with Infusionsoft is by using third-party tools and integration. So there's a handful of popular SMS tools that can work in conjunction with Infusionsoft. So for multi-channel messaging, you're going to want to jump into existing campaigns, normally when you have a period or a bunch of emails over a period of time. And you'll introduce either in between the steps, another timer and a delay and possibly an SMS message. And of course that SMS message, how you trigger it is going to be dependent on which third-party tool you're using. Most commonly, it'll be an HTTP post that initiates it by posting to a URL provided by that third-party tool. You might need to send some additional parameters to make it do what you want or to reference custom fields, but all of the instructions for configuring that should be provided based on the SMS tool that you've selected. Now, similarly, if you wanted to add or remove people from custom audiences, you would want to, there's two primary methods. You either will do it by sending an HTTP post, or some of the integrations just do it by adding and removing tags. So based on what section of their customer journey they're in, you probably know what the next goal is for them. Well, you can dynamically add them to an audience that is perpetually running an advertisement driving that same message or encouraging that same goal. So if there are specific milestones you want people to achieve, you can use the combination of mediums of the different channels to reinforce that message, to drive home that call to action, and to ultimately create the user experience that is most likely to both help them and achieve the mutual goals you have. So that is multi-channel messaging. The objective for that, or the action item I'll give you for that, is to comb back over your campaigns to figure out where these messages can be most effectively enhanced, and to use and select the tools that you want to drive those messages through the different channels. So whether it's SMS or Facebook audiences or phone calls, that part is going to be up to you and your industry and what ways your customers prefer to be communicated in. But my challenge is to find ways outside of just the email inbox to reinforce that same message or to help your customers, right? Now, as far as this webinar goes, if you found the content here valuable, the recommended next step I have for you is the Campaign Builder Trilogy. So if you want more tactics, more strategies, more out of the Campaign Builder specifically, the course that I recommend is the Monkeypod Campaign Builder Trilogy. It's a start to finish walkthrough of how to use the Campaign Builder. And what I find is that as you develop that muscle, as you start to get more confident and comfortable with the Campaign Builder, you start to identify areas where automation can really start to serve you. And it may be things that you hadn't previously considered. It may be internal automation or segments of the customer journey that you had not focused on previously. And I know there are some of you watching this that thought, yeah, this was great, but I knew most of that, or I already feel comfortable with the Campaign Builder. For those of you who for whom that is true, I invite you to join the OG membership. So this is my private community. It's a Facebook group at its core, but it offers a myriad of benefits for folks like us, folks who want more out of Infusionsoft, who want to have conversations, draw inspiration from the group, use it for thought partnership or for troubleshooting, or just to get a second pair of eyes on a campaign or automation process that you think could be more streamlined. Now, that is it. Thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate your time, your investment, and your interest.